Autophagy, autophagy, autophagy. If I had $1 for every intermittent fasting guru who talks about autophagy, which is basically just lysosomal protein degradation, I would be a rich man now. By far the most overrated thing since training until failure. Intermittent fasting. You want to take it one level further, 1 meal a day. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I can definitely not recommend this for anyone. Ignoring the fact that I've been able to hold pretty much 4 to 6% body fat throughout the entire year, this is definitely not realistic for most people, especially because I have omitted the most important part of it, which is that I burn up between 3,000 and 5,000 calories on an average workday, which is 4 to 6 times every week. So I already burned through calories like an insane person. And replenishing these calories multiple times a day over the course of the entire day, for instance through 5 or 6 meals, not only takes up an insane amount of time, but also has my insulin levels spiking and falling throughout the day, making me feel like absolute shit, which is basically one of the only 2 reasons that I do 1 meal a day. And it is not because of autophagy or lysosomal protein degradation, which if you're new to the Intermittent Fasting Society, autophagy is basically the newest of buzzwords and is not as efficient as most people make it out to be. But ignoring this, the only other reason why I do this is because I am lazy. I am such a lazy person. I'm probably the laziest person I know. If you ignore the fact that my whole job is moving around, teaching classes, doing sparring with my clients and all of that stuff, burns a lot of calories, burns a lot of energy, has me moving around a lot all day long. And then when it comes to eating, I'm just too lazy to do it multiple times a day. I'm too lazy to cook multiple times a day. And this is why I do 1 meal a day. Now, what does that look like? Well, basically 4,000 to 5,000 calories within an hour and a half to 2 hours of a feeding window. Feeding window is what we call the time in which us animals are allowed to eat food. Like we're some kind of chicken or cows waiting to be slaughtered, and we need to take our food calorie intake seriously because we need to reach a certain level of weight before we can get slaughtered for meat. Now, does that mean that intermittent fasting is not effective? No, not at all. The problem is that most studies that work on intermittent fasting basically work with, number one, people who have already been in a calorie surplus, switching to a calorie deficit and combining that with fasting. And if you know anything, a calorie deficit will already be enough to lose you the weight. Now, I will not deny that not eating for prolonged periods of time actually decreases your hunger through the upregulation and downregulation of ghrelin and leptin, which is totally okay. It is a good benefit, but overall, this is not something that you can do for the rest of your life. And this is the exact problem with diets. It's not about doing something for 2 or 3 months and changing your entire life, putting it upside down, and then 3 months later you just fall back into the classic yo-yo effect. It's about finding something that you can do for the rest of your life without hating your guts. And this is not for most people. For most people, this is going to be a problem. For me, this is the easiest thing that I could find. It's basically just eating once a day, perfectly okay. And then sometimes I'd snack. No problem. I have no problem with coming out of my fasting state if there is something that I want to eat. And this by itself is one of the most important things in general when it comes to diet, because if you are restrictive, if you are really restrictive, and I'm not talking about morbidly obese people or people who have health issues and need to lose weight, I am talking about people who are living their daily lives by being just as restrictive as someone who, for instance, wants to stand on a bodybuilding stage. You don't have to. You're never going to look like me. And that is not because I look amazing. It's because I have totally different goals. I have a totally different built-up life. And I have totally different routines that I go through that you will never go through, because you have a job, you have a family, you have friends and all of that stuff. And most of those things in my life I built around my job, which is physical fitness. So for me, this is a totally different thing. So can I recommend 1 meal a day to other people? No, I can definitely not. Do I work with some of my clients with intermittent fasting and reducing their feeding window? Of course I do. Do I combine it with a calorie deficit? Definitely I do that. But do I tell them to only eat once a day, or do I tell them to go through hardcore restrictions? I definitely do not, and I cannot advise any of you to do the same thing unless you have really, really specific goals that you cannot achieve or that are not adherent to your lifestyle, and you have to do something very drastic. And even then, I would only recommend to do that for a very, very short amount of time. Now, I hope this was somewhat helpful. I'll see you all tomorrow because, you know, with new videos every day. Captain Cairo, peace out.